All right, everybody. Great to be here. Mark Sudduth, your host, and we've got this special Zoom session. I've been looking forward to this for several months now, ever since I met these people, fine people up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Hopefully I said it right. I got an email back earlier in the summer from this company, QjuickDams, and it was expressing interest in working with me, a partnership, sponsorship, whatever you want to call it, an influencer campaign. That's pretty big now on social media. And I get a few of those each year, believe it or not. And most of them, I'm like, this just isn't a good fit for me. And I dismiss them, very respectfully, of course. And everybody's trying to build a better mousetrap, it seems. In this case, I think the mousetrap has been sort of reinvented, if you will. And I was blown away after we did a meeting over, I guess it was Teams or something like that, the Microsoft version of Zoom, at the passion, the energy, the innovation. And it's like, look, let's get together in person. So I flew up and spent a day and a half there in their headquarters, not far from Providence, Rhode Island. And Rhode Island's famous for more than just the home of Family Guy. That's how I knew it, basically. And the Ocean State. It's a beautiful state. I've passed through it many times, going to New England for big coastal storms and nor'easters, that kind of thing. But never had I stopped outside of just getting some Boston Market or something like that in Cranston. And it just was, the day and a half that I spent was amazing. It really opened my eyes. I was like, this is a line of products and a company that could really, really help people. And so part of the whole campaign and idea behind getting the word out about this company was to show people who is behind the company. And I thought that's really important, that to build the trust, to understand the history, where it all these ideas came from. And we've had some hurricanes in between, and things got pretty busy. So here we are at the end of September. Finally, I'm able to interview. It's not even an interview. We're just talking. That's what Karen, right? That we just get together and we just talk here. It's the virtual meeting at the local, what's the barbecue place we went to? hard
Oakwood.
Oakwood, right? It's just like that. Hey, we're all going to meet down in Groveland or wherever it was we met. And is that where we did it? Was it right there in your
It was Leesburg.
Leesburg? See, I'm glad I have Karen to remind me of these things.
Yeah, it was, and you got to experience the villages for the
Right.
first time.
Well, no, that was Matt's first time going to
Oh, the
villages.
horror.
It's grown a lot, that's for sure. But really, it's like a family of people that are connected by the weather. And anyway, let me get to the introduction. Carol Dancer, you're up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Welcome. Let's talk about QjuickDams. Let's get that energy that I saw, your passion for it. And tell me, like, what is QjuickDams all about? How did you come up with it? And let's just roll and see where this goes.
All right. Well, I'm Carol Dancer. I own and operate Absorbent Specialty Products. So we're up here in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and we manufacture our quick dam bags, barriers, water dams, and things like that. And basically, it's a water-activated polymer inside tubes of material that are nice and compact for shipping and storage. But then when you get them wet, they swell up and gel, and you use them to kind of block and redirect water to hopefully prevent water damage from coming into your property.
Pretty simple answer, but like, how did you come up with this? Where'd this idea, what's the inception?
You got to go way back in my memory banks here. So,
and you're by yourself there, so you got to
do exactly.
You can text Marilyn and get some clues, but I had Karen bailing me out.
Yeah. So, well, soon after college, I got into a family business with my father, and we were basically manufacturing oil absorbent products, spill control for industrial applications. And throughout the years, we did fairly well, but unfortunately, we suffered a fire that took the company down. And we brought on some partners that were not so great partners. And so in 2004, I kind of branched off on my own, and my father retired, and I said, this is it. So we started producing products that were kind of geared towards little niche markets. So it's a bit weird, but we started out in the mortuary field where we were providing products to absorb and contain fluids. And then just as time went by, we started finding people having certain applications or problems, and they would reach out and I think, I can make something that does that. And I'd send a sample off and they'd call me back and say, it really worked. It was great. And I had more and more of those. And I'm like, I think maybe I've got something here. And so one of my office staff in 2012 came in and said, there's a hardware show coming up. We should launch. And so we developed a whole retail package design and we launched in 2012 and it just started taking off. So it's been a whirlwind ever since. And we've grown. We bought a 70,000 square foot building in 2020, right before COVID. Great.
Yeah.
So we fixed it all up. We got it all ready. We moved everybody over here and we've just been rocking ever since. So we've brought on a lot of new items. We've added to our portfolio. So our general absorbing products are really good for freshwater applications. But when you get to salt water, it can be a bit of an issue with the chemical reactions. So we developed other products for that marketplace. So now we have doorway protectors that are, easy to expand and seal a doorway. We have a perimeter protection that wraps all the way around a building that goes up to 5 feet high, and it's flexible and just connects together and it just rises with the flow of water. So you don't even have to fill it. It just does the work by itself. So we've got definitely a nice, unique family of products that I think really would benefit a lot of people, and we just need to get the word out.
Well, yeah. And so let's go sort of back to the beginning. You've got all these products, and what are they for? I mean, let's talk about the flood problem and the water problem for just the United States. Obviously you could sell in Canada and elsewhere, I'm sure, but in just the US alone. And let's just talk about weather related flooding, not even like, you might even hear some of my kids in the background there playing. They're home from school now. We won't even touch upon sort of man-made disasters, so to speak, the toilet overflowing, the hot water heater bursting. I mean, I've got stains in my playroom from that, but just weather-related, we have a pretty big water problem in terms of damage on an annual basis, and that's what these products are for. So let's talk about that a little bit, sort of introduce people to the scope of just how big this problem really is. Because we don't think about it until it happens.
Right. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's throughout the year, it migrates around the country of what the problem is. So you kind of start with one and then you keep kind of carrying on, and then it repeats year after year. So we're kind of coming into the ends of hurricane season. So, you've got potentially the whole southeast of the United States is on alert, plus all the Caribbean islands. So they've got influx of seawater coming in, plus heavy rain. So now you've got a bit of mix of that. So we tend to focus a lot more on the inland folks to see if we can help them. The coastal ones, if it's really devastating, I mean, if their house is floating away, there's nothing we can do about that, right? So we try to get a little more inland and see if we can help those folks as best we can. As we come towards the end of hurricane season, we're going to go into winter season. Up in the north, we're going to get freezing temperatures. So now you get freezing pipe leaks and things like that cause problems. There's also construction things like water main breaks and landscaping alterations that are issues. We've got the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast that's coming into this giant season of wet weather, which
the atmospheric river season.
This is like a whole new thing for us. We didn't even know this atmospheric river thing even existed, but here we are. That's like the West Coast. Then you'll get snow. You'll get lots of snow. So now you've got areas that are going to have heavy snow melt. So now you've got to worry about snow melting. And then as the snow melts in the springtime, you go into swelling rivers. So now you're in the Midwest, and now you've got to worry about swelling rivers and all of that. And then you go into the summer seasons where now it's more on the construction, landscaping, and projects that are going to be going around. But then it leads right into hurricane season and spring rain. And then it cycles all over again. So it's quite amazing how you didn't really think about flooding until you're in the business of flooding, and you're like, wow, it really is just everywhere.
It's an enormous problem. And again, this is all basically weather related. Again, we didn't even touch upon healthcare, industry, home. That's a whole other, I mean, we could do an hour just on that. And What it all comes back down to, though, is this word that I learned a lot about in my early years, right about graduation from college, as I was looking to really get into educating people about hurricanes. It wasn't so much preparedness, which is your 48 to 72 hour window of gathering batteries, food, water, gasoline for the car. That's the preparedness part, preparing for the storm, preparing for the event. This other word, mitigation, mitigating the impacts over time. That QjuickDams is there as a mitigation product and product line for something that is unforeseen now, that when it happens in the future, you definitely want whatever the situation is and your property needs are, these products on hand to mitigate, or as that term is all about, lessening the effects of the disaster. You're not going to, you don't have a water eliminator, where it's just gone, but you can mitigate and cut down and lessen those effects over time. And I think that's what is so important about this, is it is a tool to help.
Right.
Because walk me through a little bit in your experience and experiences of just a couple of inches of water seeping in your property, what kind of damage that can do.
Well, as an example, right outside my office here, we had a huge rainstorm just recently, and the water just happened to come in a little gap underneath the doorway, and it was just flowing in. The gutter outside was not working properly, or it was bent or something, so it was backflowing out of the gutter and just came right towards the doorway and right in the door.
Right.
So as soon as it comes in, now you've got the floors got damage. If it gets to a wall, you've got wall damage. Then you have to pull that down, because then you're going to get mold. If it's carpeting, if it gets further in, you've got furniture damage and anything that's on the ground. So it just, as it creeps up, I mean, my relatives just 3 weeks ago in New Hampshire, their storm drains backed up. Right. And the water just came straight down the street. The storm drains are working. It built straight up, and then it went right over the lip of their driveway, and it poured right down into their garage and filled up into their basement, and they had 2 feet of water in their basement. I mean, it was just like, if you caught that at the driveway and could have re-diverted it, you would have stopped that from happening. Like, it's just crazy that if storm drains are backing up all over the place, they're not adequate enough, and now the states and cities don't have enough funding to redo all the waterways. So, it's just seems to be a never ending battle.
Yeah. And that's the key here, is that now in 2023, we don't just have sandbags, because those were like the thing. We've seen pictures.
Way back. Old school.
Right. That was the go-to shot for news outlets when there's a flood of any kind coming. I remember covering a couple of hurricanes in the desert Southwest in 2014, and Tucson was handing out sandbags, and it was the shot to get over there, film people filling up sandbags with sand and loading them and taking them away. And then there was these side stories where people were selling those sandbags to desperate people, and it became like a criminal thing. That also happened here in North Carolina and South Carolina just a few years ago after Hurricane Florence. The government handing out sandbags, piling the sand up, and it just became this cascading problem. And then you've got to get rid of the sandbags, and that's environmentally just horrible. But the QjuickDam products are environmentally compatible. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that, to me, I was like, look at all of this stuff. Well, what do you do with it when you're done?
Right.
It's actually remarkable what you can do with it.
Yeah, so it's a super absorbent polymer. Technically, it's called sodium polyacrylate. It's similar to what's inside baby diapers. Yeah. So when you look at it, it looks just like sugar, but when you add it to water, it just swells and gels. And then when you have so much of it, it kind of sticks to itself, and this gelled material just kind of creates a barrier. Yes. So it's nice and flat and compact. I mean, it looks like a paper towel when it's flat. If you have it in the flood barrier version, if it's in the sandbag, it looks just loose like powder. But once it's activated, they basically are the same thing. When you're done with it, you can actually cut the bags open and pour it into like a sunny area, but outside of a walking path. Because it is very slippery, but it'll just biodegrade over time, and it'll actually keep the moisture at the surface for the plants. So
Yeah.
it kind of like, feeds the plants until it degrades. So it's kind of a bonus feature to get rid of them. So, I mean, or if you have ongoing issues for a season,
Yeah.
just kind of drag them out, leave them in a shaded area, and they'll
Right.
reactivate every time it rains again. And you'll get a good 3 to 6 months of like ongoing use out of them. It depends on where you are in the country, but
Right. Right.
the cooler, the shadier the climate, the longer they last. The sunnier climates, the more heat, they tend to degrade
Yeah.
faster. So
Yeah. Yeah. So conversely, with sandbags, let's say you get 30 or 40 of them in front of your entrance or whatever, and the flood either comes or it doesn't. What do people, and people might not know this, what do people typically need to do with sandbags? How are those disposed of, traditional sandbags?
You're supposed to take them somewhere to get them rid of them, as considered a polluted hazardous waste. So now I don't even know how people get rid of them, because who wants to put that in your car?
Yes.
Right. So you've got to wait for some like dump truck or something to take them. So it is a challenge to get rid of them once they've gone. Now ours, you could keep reusing them, but again, if you have a lot of them, you're probably just going to want to get rid of them. So you could just cut them open, and if you don't want to spread them out, just cut them open and expose the sun to direct sunlight. Or because salt is a product that degrades it, you could potentially sprinkle salt on it and degrade it, and then it just turns back to water and releases the water back out again.
That's incredible. And
another option,
the black fabric that makes up these bags, what can people do with that? I was like amazed, because I know people in landscaping of kind of giving it away a little bit, but I was like, wow, like
it's actually it is the landscaping geotextile material. So if you want to use it as a ground cover and prevent weeds from growing up, you could just cut it open and spread it out and put it underneath the soil and put your plants on top of it. It stops the weeds from growing through. So you could reuse it in that manner as well.
Can you believe? I mean, Karen, you're in to.
My mind's going a million miles an hour here.
Like this is what I'm talking about. We're talking about advancement that is helpful. It is something that can be disposed of in a way that is just far removed from traditional sandbags or any of these other products that are much larger, anything filled, like rubber or canvas or whatever the competition, so to speak. This is different. And I had to see it with my own two eyes up at the 70,000 square foot facility. And, you led me around. I need to offload that raw GoPro footage and just put that up for our patrons probably Monday or something, and just let them see, like, now that they've got the backstory from you, here's what it looked like. I rolled the GoPro like it was just, another person, right? Yeah. And walked through the facility. And I was just amazed. I really was. I was like, how is this not a known thing everywhere? And I think about, just as an example, the Phil Swift products that, of course, that's massive guerrilla marketing. And we all know about Flex Seal. And they've got NASCAR sponsorship, and it's a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign, and I understand that. But just the simplicity and the utility, that's the word, of the QjuickDams products, I was like, all right, I know I'm influential enough in my small little world here in the hurricane and weather business, but we got to do something about this. We got to tell people that this is something that could be really, really helpful going forward, more than people even realize. And so we're just at the beginning. I mean, we are. As you guys get to know Carol and the marketing folks, and we work more and more on things. I've even pitched the idea of having her and the team come out when we can see a situation coming up. Maybe there's going to be some river flooding in the spring, snow melt season, whatever the case may be. That they come with us in the field, and we work with a community and start introducing these products, and bringing some to set somebody up with, maybe in a poor area that just can't afford it, and say, here's something, set it up, put the GoPros, put our live cams on it, and demonstrate it really working. I mean, Carol, you talked about it's hard to get pictures of it in action because it's just hard to do. That we just do more to get people to notice. Now, sales are good. Let's talk about that. I mean, you're doing well as a company, and that is fantastic. Marilyn was updating me. Let's talk about where you are available. It's not just go to QjuickDams.com and we'll fill the order. you're in some big retail places.
Yeah, we're in Home Depots, Lowe's, Ace, True Value, Do It Best. We're in Walmart in certain stores. We're actually hoping to launch another new product in Walmart shortly. So we just won an opportunity with Walmart. And then when you get more onto the industrial side, we're in a lot of the property management facility, supply houses, Granger, Fastenal, Ferguson, the plumbing supply houses. So HD Supply, yeah, I mean, the market is, I mean, any building that has water is a potential facility that needs assistance. So it's, and it's kind of like, people prepare for fires. They have fire extinguishers, they have first aid kits, but they never think about preparing for flood protection. It's always after the fact. It's always restoration. And why not try to divert it? Why not prevent it? So here's an opportunity to try to. Karen, do you have a question?
Please.
I have. I'm sitting here thinking, you carry nature's bleed stop. That's what you make. But have you, because I've been down at those sandbag filling areas, and like in our area, we have a ton of senior citizens, and even for my older age, I end up getting out and having to help them fill those bags and get them in their car. And then we always ask, how are you going to get them out? And they're like, well, I have to ask a neighbor. And are you going in that direction with the seniors, the safety of having that bag just in a dry bucket, and they don't have to drive down and grab sandbags? It's pull it out and put it down. And I mean, because it's a safety issue for them. They don't have to be worrying about picking up a 65-pound sandbag.
Right.
Carol, what is this?
That is our box of 20 flood bags. So that box weighs 12 pounds.
And it's full. I'm not faking it.
It's full, yeah. So inside there's 20 flood bags. Each one of them is going to grow by 12 by 24, like a regular size sandbag, and about 3.5 inches high.
That's amazing.
So each flood bag will weigh 32 pounds when they're activated.
The water does its thing, right?
So when that box is activated, it's replacing 640 pounds of sand.
Isn't that incredible?
In that one box.
I mean,
so instead of the government filling their parking lot with sand and handing out sandbags and waiting for people to come by and shovel and then put it in their car and struggle with it, they could literally just hand them a box of 20 and say, off you go. And now you just activate them in your car at your home. So I don't know how many sandbags people can fit in their cars when they load them up there. I mean, do they get like 6 and then they're at their limit?
Right.
Well, and you know what? When you said 6 is the limit, that you do get limited. Right. A lot of places you're told you can only have 4 or 5, and that's it. So exactly. So I'm just thinking here that you got a massive market of senior citizens, just safety alone. Mm-hmm. They can have that box of 20 mark. They, our 80-year-old grandma can hold it, and she's got 20 ready to go sandbags.
Right. And they
can sit on the shelf for 20 years. Like you don't even, they just leave them sitting there. And we have product that I first made when I first launched the company that I'm pulling out, and I take it to trade shows and I activate it because it's got our logo printed on it. And I'm like, I'm still using the very first ones I ever made, and I'm taking them to shows and using them. So they just sit and wait until the water shows up. So
Brad in OBX, are you able to unmute or talk or whatever? Because I want to talk about saltwater, and if I can involve you for a second, because I know where you are. I'll give you a second to respond. Maybe you can't. And if he can't, that's okay. I know what I want to say. Maybe not. So Brad is on the Outer Banks. That's why it says OBX. And they deal with a lot of salt water. Now, I was just out there for what was Ophelia. And I took the Watergate, the small one that you sent back or you shipped to me. and I had it in front of a driveway, because that driveway, the way the surge or the overwash comes down the street, it pours into this driveway and it gets under the house there that I was staying at. And it's just nasty. And the owner of the house, his name is Dan. Hey, Brad.
Hey, Mark.
So talk about the saltwater side of things. So QjuickDams, the flood bags, they don't work with salt water, because salt water will what, Carol? What will salt?
It breaks down the polymer itself. It kind of activates it with the water, but then the salt just starts to eat it away at the same time. So
right. So this is not a saltwater mitigation with the flood bags, but you do have the Watergate product. You have other things for diverting water, and some of the videos that you've got of the big ones that you've had deployed in either testing, and we're talking Army Corps of Engineers stuff here, and in real world applications. I believe it was over in Houston. Obviously, they have the potential. It's either drought or major flood there, or 110 degrees, it seems, lately. But out on the Outer Banks, I was just there. I saw Brad, and I stayed at this house in Rodanthe that, again, for a big surge event that's going to take out houses, you just need flood insurance, and you got to make sure you are properly covered. That is a mitigation tool using a financial tool. This, though, with potential of using like the Watergate or whatever, you end up being able to rebrand it, there is that potential as well to at least mitigate some of the big storm surge issues. So let's just talk about that a little bit, Carol, that we know how well your line of products works with fresh water, but storm surges, the minor ones, I was thinking about, here's another example, Washington, North Carolina. They had 4 to 5 feet of water. It came up the Pamlico River. That's brackish. Are we talking about any salt content's not good? Because brackish is not quite full ocean. It's not quite fresh. And I was thinking about, man, if these people had known this was coming and they had, the perimeter of water gates, these are like $1.5 million houses, and you spend a few $1,000s on these products, they could have protected themselves.
Right.
And it's not necessarily from the flood bags, right?
Yeah. So the Watergate product is basically a portable dam. They come in 30-foot and 50-foot lengths. They connect to themselves, so you could have an unlimited length. They're soft and flexible, so they kind of conform to all sorts of surfaces. They can go up ramps, upstairs if you needed to. But then they lay flat on the ground until the water shows up. Right. So it's very quick and easy to deploy. They're nice and compact for storage, but then you just roll them out in the path of the water. You raise the edges up to the sides, and then as the water comes in, the water itself causes the walls to rise. So as they rise up, they're designed, the Army Corps of Engineers states that flood sandbag walls should be in a 3-to-1 ratio. Well, for this product, we designed it in a 4-to-1 ratio. So for every 1 foot in height, there's a 4-foot skirt that's on the bottom. So as the water travels over that skirt, the weight of the water actually anchors it into place. Amazing. So again, very quick and easy to deploy. The water shows up and the wattles rise up. We offer them in heights from 6 inches all the way up to 5 feet high. So if you have a surge of water coming, you can potentially surround your entire building with this. We do recommend that people have pumps on site, because as it's raining or you've got gutters, it's going to be putting water on the backside. So you want to make sure you're pumping that water out to the front and not trapping it in the backside. But other than that, I mean, there's hardly any tools you need. We do recommend that you have some sandbags or some weights to put on the areas where it's going to curve up over something, or there's objects in the way that, you want to stop the water from going underneath it. But otherwise, it's like this portable dam that you can run along the side of a river, and you could hold the river back. Or if there's a water main break, you could roll it out and just divert the water somewhere else, so it's not running into people's yards or properties. So to me, the water company should have these on every truck or every department, So it's crazy.
I got close to being able, I deployed it. I spread it out in front of Dan's house, told him about it. It's like, we might be able to finally stop this water from pouring in. It's like a little river that comes down the street from the ocean, and then it turns into these people's driveways. And he was telling me that a neighbor of his, a couple houses up closer to the ocean, actually poured concrete over the summer or whenever in like a speed bump in front of his driveway. But then some of his kids or something like that had these newer, much lower framed cars, they were getting caught on the speed bump. It's like, well, that's not going to work because it's permanent, and it was damaging, scraping, like they were bottoming out.
Yeah.
It was not comical, but it's like, well, okay, well, it's too bad they didn't know about Watergate. But of course, in the talking about trying to film something in action, the overwash at Rodanthe, great for them, not good for me trying to capture it. Didn't happen. And it didn't pour down the streets. It's like, oh, well, we know there will be a next time. But I just think it's important to note that you've got the stuff that's literally in a box that you can pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot that is easy to transport. And then you've got the stuff that can protect a multi-million-dollar home, business, industry, infrastructure, government complex, hospital. I mean, and Karen, you touched upon this. It is a huge potential market to mitigate against water problems. It's amazing.
It is. It's a very big market.
Wow. Any questions or thoughts from the audience? I know we don't have a huge audience, but this will spur more conversation when we put this on YouTube. I'm sure the comments and most of the people that comment on our stuff are very well educated. We don't get a lot of nonsense and shenanigans, as we call it. And I feel very good about that. I appreciate that. I think it speaks a lot to our audience. So this will grow from here. But just thinking, Karen, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I hang out with farmers, and you caught my attention immediately. Do you have videos on your website that I can go to and learn what you were talking about, how to use that?
We do have our QjuickDams.com website. And when you go onto our products pages, you can see we've got some videos, and you can see the products in use around. Most of them are indoor, outdoor, smaller things. We do have a lot of videos on the Watergate, so you can see that. It has been Army Corps of Engineer tested, and it's FM approved for those larger companies that are looking for FM approved products.
Well, no, I think I'm leaning more towards the being able to use it in the garden as a weed fabric kind of thing.
Good idea.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
because,
like when it's over. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we have created some videos, and we actually are doing more videos next week of doing certain things. So we did do a shoot where we cut the bags open and poured the contents into the garden, but we had not shown the fabric for weed control. So that is something else that we can add to that. So well, that's the point. So
another thing too, your product being used in a drought is actually something a lot of people can use. Well, because if it holds water that well, there's a lot of people now planting trees. They can put that around their new tree if we're talking drought situation, and fill it up.
Right.
And it's going to hold that water in there around all those trees. That's a whole new market right there.
Right.
That's interesting. It's kind of like watering the trees with ice cubes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if it works, it holds the water in a drought.
Right.
You've just saved a lot of trees. And then when they're done with them, they can cut them open, and it fertilizes the ground. You're also saying weed suppression. I mean, I'm going, wow. You might not be able to keep up with the farm market if you get those out there.
Right. So many opportunities, so many markets.
Yeah.
The ideas are endless. It's amazing.
Yes.
So, hey, George,
I'm excited.
Located, by the way.
And introduce them to our team for marketing. So thank you.
I want to say hello to George.
Hello.
Hello,
how you doing,
George?
Mark? I've been a patron for a couple of years.
Oh, thank you.
From 1 to 4 to 10.
Where are you located?
Charlotte, North Carolina,
Yeah,
just
that's
up
where
the street from you.
I'm gonna be in. Yeah, I'm gonna be in Cornelius tomorrow for a big soccer match with my son. Cornelius
Oh, it's
probably
gonna
not
be a
too
pretty
far from
day.
Charlotte. Yes, absolutely. So Charlotte's had their share of incidents over the years with freshwater flooding from the leftovers of hurricanes. I know Jan over on my left on the Zoom screen in upstate South Carolina. We think of 2015 with the Joaquin atmospheric river fire hose, whatever that was called. And, you know, the freshwater flooding issue, much bigger than people realize. And again, today, I literally just planned this a few days ago. I know Carol was going to be out of not commission. What's the word I'm looking for? Not available for October. And Maryland's like, you should do it Friday. I was like, oh, we'll do it Friday. And then this big flood event in the Northeast happened. You know, really underscoring what a big problem. I mean, I bet when this is all said and done, the area that this flood has impacted in the Northeast is going to be in the billions, you know, with a B. And, you know, there's nothing we could have done to prevent it. But, you know, I was telling Carol as we started earlier before we started recording, just imagine if the Office of Emergency Management in New York City had a contract and had all the products that they needed to do some mitigation, that they could spend $10 million, I'm just ballparking it there, and save $100 million of something, infrastructure, electrical. But there, and it's nothing against them. It's just, again, realizing the product is out there. That's the key, you know, that it just becomes secondary. Okay, we need this. The technology is there. And it's a technological, it's funny, it's a little polymer, but it's a technological marvel that it beats sand. You know, that sand, you know, sand's for making glass and hourglasses and other things. And now you've got this amazing set of products. It's just, I can't wait to do more and show you all more. And these ideas from Karen with how much she does in the gardening and farming and all the connections she's got. People in Texas, I think you mentioned something after my video today. You know, we're watching the potential for some of these storms coming out of the Pacific to cross Mexico and bring a lot of rain to Texas, as long as it doesn't do it on October 14th, because I'm going out there to Odessa for the annular eclipse, where it's almost completely full, but not quite. So we got to keep it away by October 14th. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I've been excited about this ever since I set foot in the facility. Now, Carol, as you grow, you're going to outgrow that facility. Is there going to be a QjuickDams Phoenix location or whatever? Austin's a big, you know?
I don't know. We have been talking about where we might need to expand. I think we were first thinking potentially Tennessee, but definitely the West Coast definitely could use a bit. And it's the worst transportation for us because we're in Rhode Island. So it takes the longest to get to California, and it's the most costly. So if we could potentially set something up midway or on the West Coast, that would be probably ideal.
Well, Phoenix, just, you know, side note, is pretty, they're growing. They're very business oriented. I'm sure you and your folks probably looked at stuff and you know stuff, but I love Phoenix. It's on the I-10 corridor, dry most of the time. It's really hot, of course. You got to deal with that, but Phoenix isn't too bad. And
well, we like water.
Yeah, true. But, you know, for the, and California's just a little, they're just a little different overall. We won't get into that, but, you know, small businesses, I don't know. As they expand, there's different parts of the country that are easier to deal with than others, but maybe it won't stay too small for too long, because it sounds like things are progressing, and that's great. We still got a long way to go, though. We want people to just know, like they think about. And again,
we're this big in the grand scheme of things.
Right. Any other thoughts or comments from anybody before we wrap this up? Again, we're going to do this more. We're going to have Marilyn come on. So tell the group here, who is Marilyn? I keep mentioning Marilyn.
So Marilyn actually runs our retail sales division. So she oversees our all of our sales with Home Depot, Lowe's, let's see, Ace, True Value, Do It Best. So she's more on the hardware retailing side of our business. But man, she has been doing a fantastic job. So,
but she's connected to the weather.
Seen a big increase.
Yeah, she's like your conduit, you know, because
she's our weather watcher.
Right, exactly. And she feeds that information to these folks. It's like, it's more than just running sales. You know, you think about the office with the
It's
different people.
forecasting, it's planning, it's showing them where the wet weather is so that we can build up inventory so it's there ahead of time. So when people need it, it's there. So it's trying to constantly stay ahead of the game and working with their inventory planners and trying to make sure that they've got it at the right place at the right time. So it is a challenge keeping them up with all. And at the same time, if the storms don't come and then they have too much,
right.
And there's this, well, we don't want to buy more, so it's a constant watch of, maintaining just enough inventory and having it strategically placed around the country. So she's got her hands full, but she's doing quite well. So I'm happy for her.
Certainly. I saw a hand briefly. Were you just stretching, Karen?
Yeah, Karen's right. You're muted, Karen. Oop, we can't hear you.
Unmute you.
Are you muting her?
No, I was trying to unmute her.
There we go.
How can we help you?
Oh, that's
I mean, you're giving us this information, but I've other than saying, oh, go to QjuickDams.com. I mean, seriously, I've got a lot of farming friends and family, and I'd like to be able to say, hey.
How do they find out about new things? Like, what's the best way to build it? We did a Valpak advertising, those little things that go in the mail, those coupons, thinking maybe that would hit. We did that in strategic places. We put up billboards in Tampa, Orlando, Miami, and Houston, trying to see if we could get more traction that way.
Well,
we're doing all sorts of social stuff, of course, but I don't know how to reach people.
Well, do you have a YouTube channel?
Television? Like, where do you get your news and information?
I get mine from YouTube.
There you go. I think, Carol, I think the key, and this is what I talked to Marilyn about, is using social media and that mechanism that it'll just grow. It'll just become part of what we do here at Hurricane in our project. And it just grows from there to there to there. And Karen's got a good point that, YouTube, and you've got some fantastic, their production quality, Karen. This has got a film crew coming. I mean, I've seen some pretty bad stuff over the years that different people have shown at trade shows, different hurricane conferences. It's like, and no fault of their own. Maybe they didn't have a big budget. I don't know. But seriously, their infographics, their animations, their production value is like, wow, like a fortune. I told him this. I said, it reminds me of a Fortune 50 company, like a Lowe's grade production. And I'm not just saying that. I'll send you some links, Karen. They were amazing.
Okay. Well, the little mailers, most of the time that stuff goes straight in the trash at our house. And billboards, really, unless you're putting them on the turnpike, you're wasting your money in Florida because it's too dangerous to even drive here, much less read billboards.
I see where she's going with this. She's not wrong.
So yeah, I pass billboards every day, and I can't tell you what's on any of them. So that's really a waste of money.
Okay. What about HOAs? Do you read any magazines or anything from these types of companies?
No.
Homeowners associations? No.
Okay. Well, we're a farm community. You're not going to find those around here.
Okay.
So
I'm relying on you, Karen. Yeah. You need to spread the word.
Okay. Well, I mean, I want to. I seriously want to know the garden and farming aspect of this. Okay. Because I've got 4 friends who actually have a huge YouTube following for farming.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you get those people on board. Some of these people have 500,000-600,000 followers. So
there you go.
Now, do some of these farmers have issues where they could block water from flooding their farmland or something like?
Yeah, well, actually, your dairy farmers really. I mean, there's always water issues on a farm. So yeah, and if they can just cut the bags open and let it dry out and be done with it, you've got them even more there. So,
Okay.
especially if they don't have, they throw it out, cut
Right.
the bag, and they don't have to get the tractor out to get rid of it, you got them.
Right.
So,
And I like how you could reuse it during a season. There
right.
might be a flood
Right.
event. You're done. You store the bag somewhere to keep them out of the sun. Oh, something else is coming. Go set them back up. They're already
Right.
heavy again. You take a little bit more effort that time, but you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go get new ones, and then the flood season's over. Then you dispose of them. You got the material that's available to landscapers or whatever the case may be. I just think it's, again, I just, every time I interact with either Marilyn or Carol, and today is no exception. It's wow, right?
More and
I mean,
more
I told
ideas.
you, Karen. I was like, wait till you see
Yeah.
what people really are doing.
Well, I'm just
Mark,
really excited. So I'm excited about it.
Mark, why
Excited to
why we
see.
don't try to get the different emergency management to promote this stuff in their booklet they issue before the hurricane season about how to prevent water from coming in, and I'm not sure if they're allowed because there's a government
Right.
issue booklet that they can promote her stuff so people can put it in their doors and where there is lots of floods in the coastal area from the storm surge stuff. I'm not sure how the government work. Maybe you can ask them if they're allowed to promote her product, especially in the part where it's about the flood of their homes on the coastal area and by the river, like you show on your videos and stuff like that. So maybe that's a way of putting it out by putting it in the brochure. That I know they issue one here by the Dade County Emergency Management. They issue the booklet with all the stuff like that. So I'm not sure. You might be able to find out about that.
Okay. I'll definitely look
Thanks,
into that.
Javier.
Thank you.
Especially being in Miami, Dade County, and I know where
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Get water is, you live by it, you die by it potentially. Absolutely.
All right. I will put my team on it. We just hired somebody new that her focus is going to be more on government and emergency and the larger scale. So
Right.
I'll put
And
her
I'll be
right
able to
on
help
that.
you with a lot of that in the hurricane world.
Yeah.
And just thinking, I'm glad you mentioned that because, the contacts I've got from emergency management, local level, people in FEMA region, headquarters, you name it, government, I think that could be huge. Great. That's good news there.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank
We're
you.
getting close to the top of the hour. See, it wasn't so hard at all, was it, Carol?
Much better.
Yeah, this is a good group, and it'll get bigger. We'll do this again. We'll get Marilyn in, and I can't wait to distill this, as they say, and turn it into a YouTube video that I'll post on Monday. I want to make sure I do it at the beginning of the week, that it'll get the best exposure and play and whatnot. And we'll go from there. We'll let things just kind of grow organically and keep moving forward. And I appreciate all the input. George, good to see you in person there from Charlotte, and Howard in Bermuda. And I know Jan over on the black screen there. She's been with us for a long time.
Hello.
Friend Javier, I can't say it right, in Miami. I appreciate you coming in, especially with what you had on your agenda today. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up, and I guess I'll stop recording, and then we'll say goodbye. So we'll stop recording, and then I'll end this, properly with our audience. Thanks for watching.
All right.